everyone, and welcome to a new episode of It's Just Feminism, where we try to answer some simple yet complicated questions like what is feminism, who are feminists, what do feminists even do, and can feminism change the world? Well, the guest of this series will show you by example that not only does feminism have potential to change the world, they're actively doing it. And this episode is extra special because we're tackling another question, a very controversial one, and that is, do feminists have a sense of humor? And can feminists take a joke? My name is Aurora, I'll be your host, and joining me today is Sashi, a recovering lawyer and comedian, to talk how we can use comedy as a way to cope with specific everyday situations that we have. Thank you, Sashi, once again for joining me today. I know you're
Thanks for
currently on your tour.
No, it's really exciting. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you. Before we get into it, I just want to make a quick disclaimer about this cool new feature on YouTube. It's called Being Kind in the comments. It's totally free. You can check it out, like by commenting. You can also like and subscribe so you don't miss some future videos. And yeah, we can get into it. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, so for beginning, let's talk about your previous life as a refugee lawyer. How did you get into it, and what were some specific challenges and fulfillments that came with that work?
I joined through the UN Volunteers Program. I was an immigration lawyer in Perth for a couple of years, and I applied for the program. I got in, and then did a contract in Turkey through that with the UN there. Fulfillments, it was such fulfilling work. I think the people that I met doing that work are some of the best people that I'll ever work with. They were so committed and dedicated and smart. But the challenges were like I did a lot of work overseas. Like over the next few years, I worked in Turkey, Tanzania, the Philippines, Thailand, Egypt, and it was already difficult and challenging work, but also you're away from your community, you're away from your loved ones, you're in sometimes politically unstable environments and dealing with quite difficult subject matter. So I think 10 years of that work took a bit of a toll on my health. So I got in through it through the UNV program and then kind of bounced around on a number of contracts and then came back to Australia to do my master's and then never ended up leaving. That was about 5 years ago now.
That's lovely. And
Yeah.
when it comes to some experience that you had as a lawyer and now turning into comedian career, are there some parts of it that you can translate, like some skills or some coping mechanisms? I mean, the travel is again a big part of it.
Travel's a big part of it, but it's also just a lot more fun. Like I wouldn't say refugee work is fun. It is rewarding and it is challenging, but in terms of laughing, definitely not much things to laugh at. Not that you ever would want that. But so in terms of transferable skills between lawyers and comedians, I think we speak a lot, like when we're advocating for clients and courtrooms and things. So I think we're quite comfortable with talking to large audiences. And I think research and learning how to make a point, I think all of those were very transferable skills. But there are a lot of boring lawyers.
Yeah, I bet. And both the law industry and the stand-up comedy are very hegemonic in the sense that they are dominated by mostly male, mostly white male groups, and everybody else is just like an addition. Like yes, we'll add some women with it. We'll add some women, we'll add some people of color, we'll add some queers into the equation and just stir it,
Yeah.
but it's not really integrated in a true sense. How did you deal with situations like that?
Think that's the way the world was set up, right? Like there is the norm, which is the male, and then there's everyone else. But I think I'm very lucky to have started comedy in the time that I did. So I live in Melbourne, which is very known for being woke, too progressive, to everything. And I think I started stand-up comedy at a time when there are so many female comedians. There are many people of color that we're all slowly doing our work and quietly, and there's a huge community here which I felt very embraced by. And we're starting to learn, like, I mean, is it still a thing where people are like, are women funny? Whereas 20 years ago, it was very much women aren't funny. Even 10 years ago, people were like, most women aren't funny. Whereas now I'm like, come on, like, we're not still. We're not still on that question, are we? We've moved beyond that. I hope we've moved beyond that. Maybe it's just Melbourne. I don't know.
Hopefully, the comment section will not prove us wrong.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, exactly. But I think because we're in changing times, you know, people are no longer questioning whether women are funny. They're not questioning whether people of color are funny. We have something to say and we're saying it and people are listening, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, we need that. We needed other voices too, and to break that one formula of humor, because it gets boring. Like when you hear the same joke run on every Netflix special, like you need some variety in life.
Yeah, like, and I think like variety is a good thing. It's not saying that straight white men aren't funny. It's that they are not the only brand of funny. There's other funny too. And I think that's the thing. Like, including one doesn't mean excluding the other. Like, it's like everyone is funny.
There is not a right to be funny. Like everybody should
Yeah.
have that right.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's nice. I do think growing up, I thought I wasn't funny because the only people I saw on TV, I didn't see anyone who looked like me on TV being funny. Like, there was only one way to be funny. And if you didn't get the joke, and, you know, growing up, a lot of the jokes were at the expense of women or at the expense of minorities. And it was like, if you didn't laugh, you were just stuck up and you didn't have a sense of humor. And now I look back and I'm like, oh, it's because it didn't relate to me. And I didn't relate to it at all, and that's okay.
Yeah, but a lot of people relate to your comedy, and you get a lot of very positive feedback from people who see themselves in it and who have similar stories to share, like the one you shared about how your husband didn't put you as an emergency contact. Like,
Yes, rude.
that's a very relatable experience to a lot of women, I guess.
So funny. I love finding that thing that cuts through everything. Like, everyone understands that. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or a person of color or not a person of color. Like, it doesn't matter. Everyone gets that. And like, for my comedy, I would love to find more things that are like that, that cut through everything. Yeah, that is one of my favorite jokes to do.
What even are the boundaries, in your opinion, between comedy and joking and satire and making fun of or insulting or disguising insults as jokes and trying to pass them on? And then what you just said, if you don't laugh, you're the problem, not the insult itself. Like, how do you deal with that from the creator perspective?
I think with every joke, and every comedian is different in where they see the line. And when I'm writing a joke, I often think, okay, who is the target of this joke? And am I okay with them being the target of this joke? And sometimes, like, I have a lot of jokes about white people because my husband is white, and some of the experiences that we've shared is I've found really, really funny. And it's because he's white and I'm brown. And uh, I've been reported for hate speech on Instagram before because people are like, this is racist. And it's like, it's not racist, actually, because he's not the target of the joke. Like, colonization is the target of the joke. But by the time you're explaining that, it's too late. Like, it's too late. So, what I've tried to make peace with is, okay, I've thought really carefully about who the target of this joke is. I can't think further about how it's going to be misinterpreted or any of that. Am I okay with saying this on stage? That's all there is to it. And I think that's the problem that some comedians get into, is that everyone has a different line on who it's okay to hurt with a joke. And also, I think especially in the 90s, a lot of comedy was, oh, you got to be edgy and you've got to push boundaries, and you've got to get a rise out of the audience. Like, a lot of my comedy, it's like, it's not aiming to get a rise out of the audience. It's trying to poke fun at the way things currently are. I don't want to rise out of you. I want you to laugh along with how silly everything is.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, actually, that in comedy, instead of we should laugh with each other, not at each other.
We.
It's not okay to make fun of people who are especially below you in any sense, either because of class differences, race differences, gender, power dichotomies. There is a lot of things that play into it. We should be aware of not being offensive and perpetuating actually issues.
Yeah. But what I've also learned is that when you put things online, someone's always going to be angry with you for something. So that's why you have to have your own line. Like I joked about my student debt because, and it's different from America, I think. And I think they thought I was in America. Like I think you can only take student loans if you can afford that level of debt. Whereas here in Australia, it's called the HEX debt system, where if you're an Australian citizen or a permanent resident, like that's a system that's available to you and you pay it back once you're over a certain. Anyway, I think it's a lot less onerous than the American debt system. I put a joke online about my HEX debt, and this lady went off. She was like, "How dare you joke about debt? How dare you don't realize the value of the education that you have?" Like all of this, like that. She was so angry. And I thought, okay, like this is why you can't always account for everyone, because it's like, am I okay with the joke? Yes. Do I think she was the target of my joke? No.
Yeah, I think I saw that when you were talking about how you have 3 degrees and how that's impressive, but even more impressive is your.
Yeah, yeah. And it's supposed to be a nice casual joke. And she was like, think of all the, like it was like you having those degrees took away from someone else having those degrees. And I was like, what? How? No matter what you put up, someone's going to be mad about something. So just make sure that you're okay with what you put up.
Yeah, but how do you deal then with the haters, with the trolls, with the bots that sometimes will come to the comments section if your post went viral or something? Like the bad side
Yeah.
with popularity.
I think like you would have seen it on my account, and I like different people handle it in different ways. Like a lot of people just completely ignore it, they block it, delete it. But like I still run all of my own socials, so I find it really difficult and really saddening. Like when you put out something that's supposed to be just joyous, and then you are met with like a lot of hate. And when it's the beginning of the day, you open your phone, and if it's all troll comments, I was finding it really like when it first started happening, I was like, oh, I don't want to keep posting if it's going to be like this. But then I started replying to them and I started screenshotting it and sharing it with my followers. And the response is not for them. The response is not for the troll. The response is for my followers, because it makes it so much fun. It dilutes it. It makes it look so stupid. And I think that's my own process. And I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, but it has really helped me. And it's kind of a writing exercise because you can't swear back at them. It has to be funny. It's become a writing exercise and a way to just dilute just the grossness of it. Like I think the reality is the wider you go on the internet, the wider the net goes, the more garbage that comes in. So you just have to figure out your own way of dealing with the good and the bad.
Yeah, and the problem is how easily people get offended with people trying to do any good.
So mad. They get so mad, and there's a lot of like, you're obsessed with yourself. All your content is about you. And it's like, yeah, that's social media. Like, that's what everyone is doing on here. Like, did you not get the memo? But I have to say, the bad stuff is honestly only about like 5 to 10%, like compared to the 90% of goodness, like all the positive comments, the people I've met. Like, I met you through Instagram, like all across the world. And it's so exciting. So I thought if I can just find a way to handle the bad stuff, there's so much good stuff to outweigh it. So it's okay.
What are some responses that you get from your community when you use comedy to talk about some sensitive topics that usually don't find their place in social media because they're not pretty or proper or whatever? Like you have jokes on control of sexuality in religious groups, or the amount of incarcerated Aboriginal people in Australia, which is very disproportionate in terms of how many of them are in the population. And my personal favorite.
She really loves that painting. Want it.
Now she's leaving. Okay. My personal favorite was trying to date in the anti-surveillance community, which honestly I can relate.
Amazing.
We have this thing like com- community watch, but it's just grannies on their windows, like sitting like this. Oh, where are you going? With whom? Wearing that?
Auntie network. I really the reason that I love sharing those jokes is because it resonates with so many people. Like the auntie joke, I expected that to resonate with the Sri Lankan community, at most with the like South Asian community. And then I was hearing from so many like Eastern European communities, like the Polish, and they were just like, this is my life. It was so nice to find like it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like what we are all going through is so similar in so many ways, so different in so many ways, but like how nice to find those points of connection. And yeah, it's hard putting up jokes about serious topics, but just because I know that some people log on to social media to not see anything related to that. But then I'm like, if you don't want that, then don't follow me. Like, go follow anyone else. That's totally fine. This is my content.
Yeah, people forget that they have a choice in what type of content they will indulge in, and why not
Yeah.
go search for content that will actually please you in any way.
Rather than being like, this isn't funny, this isn't funny. I was like, oh my God, the more you comment on my video, the more you will get shown my video. Like, stop it. Go comment on something you like.
The people sometimes forget how the algorithm world works, I guess. And one of the topics that you often talk about is the importance of therapy, especially when it comes to marginalized groups or just groups of people who feel stigmatized if they even say they need help, let alone actually actively try to seek it. For example, people of color or men of any color for that matter. Um, you even one time in one interview that I watched of you talked about how you talked with your dad on the promise to break the cycle, like it ends with you. So, what are some ways besides comedy, or maybe especially comedy, that help you to do that?
So annoying, this like break the cycle of intergenerational trauma thing. I'm like, I said it in that interview. I was like, all my ancestors got to just be morons. And now it's like, oh, okay, I have to figure out how to regulate my temper. Okay, fine. But it just felt like such a colossal thing where my dad was basically like, I couldn't do it, but you can. But it is like he had many relationships in his life that he wished were better. His sisters were the same. Like there was so many mental health things that happened in our families that were just swept under the rug. So I only actually learnt the terms like anxiety, depression, antidepressants, like well into my late 20s and early 30s, just because I didn't know that counseling was a thing. I thought counseling was for crazy people. That's why I like try to talk very open about it, because I'm like, counseling is for everyone. It is basically, yes, it is expensive, but it is such a good investment in your health, and it doesn't have to be forever. And I think especially in the Sri Lankan community, it's so widely stigmatized. And even I got onto antidepressants when my dad passed away. It was a whole traumatic thing with cancer, and it came on the back of like 3 miscarriages, and it was all so difficult. And I remember when I was thinking about going on antidepressants, I was still very stressed about it. Like I thought, no, like once you get on this, you'll never get off. I've heard so many things about the side effects. But luckily, I had so many friends, especially in the comedy community, who are very open about their mental health. I had a lot of people to reach out to ask about the effects and ask about how it had affected their life. And now, honestly, I credit them with just making such a difficult period in my life easier. And I like to think of them as like crutches, or just if physically you need help, sometimes forever, sometimes for a certain period of your life, sometimes for a very short period of your life, whatever it is, you need help. And I think because you can't physically see it, we tend to underestimate the need for it. But yeah, I think that that's the reason I be really open about it. And also the most important thing is finding the right people to talk to, and that can only happen if your friends are also being open about what they're going through. So I'm hoping by me being all open about it now, I get so many messages, which are just really lovely. Like even after posting about antidepressants, I had a lot of messages from people being like, I've really been putting off, like going on these. They've always scared me, and I'm always very open about it. Like, kind of, I've had mixed reports. It's helped some people, it didn't help other people. Some people had lots of side effects, some people didn't. But you just got to find the right people to talk to, a good doctor to work with, and yeah, I hope it all works out from there.
Yeah, unfortunately, in some communities it's harder to get help, either because they're living in remote areas, because they can't find help, or because their class just doesn't allow them the funds for it, or maybe their job doesn't cover it, because for some reason mental health is not part of health, like well, just like dental. Like, yes, we'll remove this part. Your brain and your teeth
Yeah.
are just not
Yeah,
part of
keep
your
your teeth
body.
clean, but don't worry about your brain.
But there are some online services, some free communities where people can reach out. In one of the episodes of this show, we're going to talk about company, the specific wellness organization for BIPOC people, because sometimes it really helps when the person with whom you're talking to knows what's behind, so they don't give you any crappy advice that doesn't translate to your actual experience.
Yes.
Like you talked about boundaries.
Boundaries. Yeah.
Do you want to share what that is?
Like, I didn't know about boundaries. I don't know if it's the same in the Croatian community, but like the Sri Lankan community is just like everyone's in your shit all the time. So this is a term that I learned from a white therapist very late in my life, and I'm still trying to figure out where the correct boundary is with parents, with family, and the things they need from you. And yeah, it was really hard to explain that to a white therapist, because they were just like, you have generational guilt. Why? Just don't have that. Just say no to your mum.
Yeah.
What?
In Croatia, we have this thing, this saying, što će selo reći, which means what will the village say. So it doesn't matter, what you think about yourself, but what will the village say? The village people have to weigh in into your life decisions and say, is it the right choice or not?
I'm actually talking about this in my show at the moment, because it comes down to two very different ideologies. Like, one is a very like communal way of living, and one is a very individualist, like collectivist versus individualist. So a lot of South Asian communities, and maybe the Croatian community, I don't know, it's very collectivist. So it's all about like what the community wants, what the community needs, what the community thinks. Whereas individualist societies, so Australia, UK, maybe Canada, not sure, is very individualistic. So it's like individual wants, individual needs, individual food allergies, like everything is very important with the individual. And I think for a lot of us that have migrated, you're trying to balance both at the same time. And that's why it's always so difficult, because we're like, what's the correct balance between two very different ways of living?
Yeah. Speaking of your new projects, you recently started Night School project, which is amazing. Do you want to share how it came to be and what are some of the interesting facts you learned from other guests on Night School?
So cool.
It's been really fun, especially because when you do a solo show, it's not lonely. It's just that it's all on your shoulders for a whole hour. And after you get off, you say hi to lots of people, but you're just by yourself. Whereas this is a lineup show, and there are many, many comedy lineup shows out there. But this one, I was like, okay, if I went to a show, what would I want to see? And I'm such a nerd. Like, I want jokes, but I want to learn a bit as well. So Night School is 3 comedians and then 1 actual expert in something. So like last time we had someone talk to us about, and each is related to a subject. So for history, someone taught us about Anne Boleyn. For science, someone just came with a basketball and like taught us how to play basketball. Like, it's all so silly, but the actual expert is always a person who's either doing a PhD or has done a PhD. So some of our experts, like one has been in geography, and she was a forced migration PhD candidate from Burundi originally, who taught us a lot about why people move, how they move, like the movements of people around the world, which was exciting. We had like a PhD in neuroscience who taught us about their research was about on the effects of MDMA in rats, but they talked about really important work done by anuses. Like, it was just It's serious, but it's funny, and it's been so much fun to run. So there's only one more of them on Wednesday, and then I think I'll try to do it later. I'll try to put some online if everyone's okay with that. But it's been a really fun experience right off the back of doing a solo show to do this fun group show on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, I think that the internet proves us that we need more education in different realms.
Yeah.
Clearly, we're looking to comedy to educate us. So here I am filling the void.
That's amazing. And not only that, but you're giving opportunity to PhD candidates an opportunity to info dump. Like, I created this whole channel to do the same.
You know, like when I was doing my master's, like I was really thinking, like, because I did my master's in law and I was like reading all these journals, and all these people do so much research in this one niche area, and they write some articles on it. They go into journals that are paywalled and read by like so few people. It's such a shame. Like the world should know about really interesting research. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think I saw that somebody actually reached out to you to expand the project to other parts of the world, which is beautiful.
It was really cute. I had someone reach out from Germany, and it was so kind of them to check because they can just take the idea. That's the thing with putting stuff on the internet. Like you can just take stuff. And she said, you know, like I'm based here in Berlin. I've been thinking about something like your night school. Like, would that be okay? And I said, look, like just don't call it Sashi Perera's night school. We'll call it your night school. I don't care. But just yeah, it was very kind of them to check.
And it proves that you're doing something very interesting if people around the world are tuning in and want to participate in some way. So they're trying to figure out how to do it locally too. So
It's so nice. Like I think like my whole theory about comedy is that just everyone is on your side. Like mostly when they come to a show, they are there to laugh, you know? Like people say like, "Oh, what about heckling and what about all this?" And it's just like, I don't know. Like I just think that's such a specific vibe that you bring to a show where you go and you want to yell at someone. What are you doing? Go for a walk.
go to therapy.
Go to therapy. Book a remote counseling session.
Except from your comedy material, of course. Where do you recommend the viewers of this show to seek information or to find, some pastime, to laugh a little bit with a whole heart?
I think like it's really important to figure out what kind of comedy you like. That's what the key is. So, do you like observational comedy? All of my stuff is observational comedy, like where it's like, this is what's been going on in my life. But that could be really bad for someone who really likes like sketch comedy, for example, you know, where people play characters, or political comedy where people only talk about what's going on in the world at the moment, you know, like around the world, current events, all of that stuff. So I think you need to figure out what it is you like, and then you need to figure out who's going to give you that content. So you can either follow people on Instagram or YouTube. Netflix is like a endless utopia of things to watch. Like for me, I don't actually watch stand up online. I love watching stand up in person, but when I'm like watching stuff online, it's always TV shows for me. Like I'm such a loser. Like I'll watch Friends until I die. Like I know that. Like Friends in the Office till I die is what I will be watching. But I think it's really important for people to figure out what makes them laugh.
And which friend are you?
I'm none of them. They're all so cool, except for Ross. Maybe I'm Ross.
Honestly, I've been told the same.
You're Ross too?
Because he's the professor, so it just,
Yeah, well, I don't even have that. He's just boring compared to everyone else.
For me, it's more like he's a paleontologist, so nobody believes his science is actual science, that he's not a real doctor, and I relate. In the end, do you have a specific message or a call for action or anything else you would like to share to inspire people to be kind, to inform themselves?
I think the best way for people to be kind is if they're happy. And I think this is the thing, you need to figure out what makes you happy. And I think that took me so long to learn. Like for 10 years, I did refugee work. And the reality is, it didn't make me happy. It made me feel important, and it made me feel like I was doing important work. But I've realized like I really need to be with my community, and I need like that work. It was so transient. Like, so you'd make friends, they'd finish their contracts and then you'd leave, or you'd leave and you're always rotating. Like, you just can't get a stable footing. And it's like some people thrive in that. And for me, I just didn't, because I just need somewhere that's stable and it's my base. And then I can go from there. And once I found that, and I think I found my base now in Melbourne, now I can travel and it's all much easier because I know I'm coming back home and I'm coming back to my community. I'm coming back to my base. And I didn't have that in when I was away. And it took me a long time to learn that I needed that, because when I was younger, I was like, I just want to travel. I just want to do important work and I want to meet cool people and do helpful stuff. And then when I was doing it, I was like, I hadn't discovered therapy then. Maybe that was the problem. Find that thing that makes you happy. I think, like, especially as we become older, we become adults, like, we're not taught that it's okay to just have fun. Like, when I first started doing comedy, I never thought it would come this far. Like, for the first 2 years, you're just getting paid in like free drinks, which I couldn't drink because I had work the next day. But I just really loved doing it, you know? Like, do you have a thing? What's your thing that makes you happy?
I like to draw. I started drawing in
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah,
And
I thought
it's,
maybe because of the paintings
yeah,
behind
I
you.
actually they are mine,
Yeah.
which is unbelievable to
They're
me.
yours.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. See, you found your thing.
Because I needed
Yeah.
something to, because my research for my PhD is around female survivors of genocide that happened 30 years ago in the Balkans. So
Yeah.
it's super hard topics. Like,
Yes.
every day you have to read a new book on what is war rape and how people deal with it, or how it was silenced, or how women today somebody uh, just denies that it ever happened. And then
Yeah.
we have current events that are the same situation happening all over again, and it's just so depressing. So I needed
Yeah.
something like art to just be, and to not have any pressure to help the world, to save the world, or whatever, but you just can paint.
Yeah, and like I think this is the thing. Like, I also wanted to save the world a little bit, you know, like I was like, I can do it, I can save the world. And then I went out there and I was like, the world is large and complicated and has been around for a very long time. So I now I was given some really great advice. They said, like, it's not a one person race, it's a relay. So like, you take the baton and you run it for as long as you can, and then you pass it on to someone else, and then someone else will take it and go. So you do it for as long as you can, and then you pass it on, because there'll always be someone younger and idealistic coming up behind you who hasn't been burnt out yet. And they will take it and they will run. So that was an interesting way to think about it, because to be honest, like, I felt like I felt guilty for leaving my work because I was good at it and I thought it was important. And I thought it also, initially, I was like, oh, what a waste. I put so much time into this. I built so many networks. I did so much work. Like, this was what all of my 20s was about. So to walk away from that area was very odd. But I'm still thinking of it as a break. Like, I'm taking a break and I'm figuring, and like, I'm just moving in a different direction. Like, I still have that wealth of knowledge and I can come back to it. But for the moment, I was like, I need something fun. And hilariously, I think way more than any report or paper I ever wrote, the jokes that I'm doing on the internet are seen by so many more people.
That's the sad part of some of the work that we do.
So wild. Like, I worked for almost a year on LGBT claims from Iranian asylum seekers, and could speak to no one about it because no one would be interested. And then I do a joke about their policies, and that's on like 2 million views, you know? So you're just kind of like, okay, I am reaching people in a different way. That's interesting. One piece of advice, sorry, going back to the question, is I think as adults, we're not taught to just nurture something that makes us feel happy and might bring us no money. It might actually just cost us money. Do it. Do it. Buy the paints. Go to the comedy nights. Do the thing. Get out of your house. Go be with people. It's so important.
really is. And we don't have to monetize it or anything. We can just be, and that's sometimes very rebellious thing actually to do.
It is. I think in a capitalist society where you're taught that value only comes if money comes from it, it is incredibly rebellious to just take a nap sometimes or just go do something with your friends. Like just go to a park. I don't know. Like maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know.
You have three degrees, right? It's not like any
Yeah.
of them is gonna expire. It's not like rotten
No,
food.
exactly.
I think like they say life is short, but actually if you're lucky, life is very, very long, and you're going to have to figure out how to be happy in everyday life, not for those like 2 weeks of a year that you get a vacation. Like you need to figure out how that is a daily, weekly pursuit beyond the meditation that we're supposed to all be doing. But let's be honest, most of us never do.
Yeah, like sit down, close my eyes, and shut up for a second.
Don't need more time alone in my own brain. Are you joking?
Same.
Yeah.
This was very lovely. Thank you.
Fun. Look at you doing fun stuff outside your PhD.
Sometimes we need that to survive, and there's nothing wrong with that. Hopefully, somebody will stumble upon this in the realms of the internet and inspire themselves and rethink how they think about comedy or how they approach some daily situations in their lives. And if nothing else, maybe people will start ignoring people who pass insults as jokes and then say, no, 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 you are the problem because you didn't laugh. Just as Leonardo DiCaprio is ignoring every woman over the age of 25.
Look at you writing a joke. Well done.
It took me a long time to write it and I probably delivered it horribly.
You were like, I did it, I did it, I did it, I did it. No, great work.
Not be appearing on any open mic anytime soon.
Do you know what I really loved about this interview is that it's about feminism, but the word didn't come up once, you know, like it's the same as like just be the example that you want to be. Like you can just advocate for women and for people. I just feel like feminism, like the word is the same as racism. Like people hear it and people just go, like, we don't want to talk about that, or that's not a thing that applies in our societies anymore. Like, you know, we've moved past that, and it's like still a lot of structures that we're working under that aren't great.
Yeah, because we have to dismantle it. Nobody else will. So it doesn't make sense to say feminist in every sentence. But talking about equality or equity or breaking the silence and things like that, that is truly feminist. And also being rebellious and fighting capitalism. What is more feminist than that? Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's just like go do the thing. Like there was a time when I would not have been able to do this for so many different reasons, and now I'm allowed to stand on stage with a microphone in my hand and talk about whatever I want and I won't get arrested. Oh, that's so cool. I'm going to keep doing that.
yeah, and the thing is, I mean, to me, it's a shock to speak with you. Like the fact that you were willing to take a time to speak with me. Like I just sent an email and a message and in the DMs like, if it passes, it passes. Like maybe like a long shot, it would be wonderful. And to have your reply and to organize this, it's wild.
Honestly, I love doing this stuff. Like the whole point of going viral for me has been meeting so many different people around the world and doing so many different things. Like I adore it. And that's why like I keep doing it. It's like I've met so many people doing so many different things. It inspires me daily and in so many different ways. Like that's why I'm just like, oh, there's no one way to do it. It's not like I've gone into this one profession that benefits everyone. It's like everyone is doing so many different things around the world. It kind of restores my faith in it because that's what you don't see on the news. You just see how bad the world is on the news every day.
And not all the people behind the scenes doing the little things like a jigsaw puzzle. Everybody's making their own little piece, and together we can actually make a nice, beautiful new picture.
Yeah, and I think that's why like it's so important to get out into the world, because if you sit at home on your phone, it's easy to believe that everything's just the world is ending and everyone is horrible. So just like get out there, do it. Talk to random people in Canada. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you once again. Thank you all for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it, found it inspirational. If you did, please leave a like, maybe even subscribe so you don't miss on future episodes. And feel free to find Sashi on her social media.
Yeah, find me. Thanks for having me. This is so lovely. Great way to start the day.
Oh, I'm so glad.
It was so nice to meet you. Good luck with all your research.
Have a great
Okay.
day.
Bye, Aurora.
Bye.